You're into slow-paced RPGs? I'm down. I mean, I've played Morrowind before, I think. You know, when I look at gameplays of other people, sometimes I get it mixed up with what I've played. My memories gets combined. My memories get combined. Sorry. Aren't you guys glad you're here? What's up, guys? Happy Sunday! You could see there's a bit of a change for the show. I'm making it a little more casual because initially the tech show started very uptight and stuff, and I kind of kept it like that, and I wasn't having fun, right? I could still spit the truth. I just don't need to dress like I'm spitting the truth, you know? So I'm going to be dressed a little more relaxed. The conversation's going to be more relaxed. But I'm very curious to hear what you guys have to say, especially for today's show. Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about a few very questionable things. You could probably see in the stream title, we're going to be talking about the Pixel 8. And by the way, I ordered a Pixel 8. It should be coming next week or so we could follow up on that. And I'll talk about my experience. I'm not trying to sell you the product. I got a Pixel because I like Google. You could get whatever the fuck you want. But regardless of what you have, today's topics, you're going to have to really take note, because at the end of the day, whatever happens in flagship models will roll out to other products. So, I mean, the Pixel name has kind of grown. But yeah, let's take a look at the itinerary for today. Boom. Hey. Oh. Is it... Why is it blacked out? I don't know. Work in progress. So, we're talking about Google's Pixel 8 edits memories, not photos. And the second topic, Twitter's in a paradox of tolerance. We'll talk a little bit more about Twitter, but before we jump into the Google Pixel, I have been experimenting with a new technology. Which is actually not new technology. It's just a little more refined. And in fact, it's kind of trending. You may have seen on the internet, and there are several little bits of trending photos out there. What are memories? Rom says. We'll take a look at memories when we talk about Google. But so what I did this past weekend was I saw that there was a 90s photo album trending. It's on TikTok, right? What's up, Z? I usually do not jump on the bandwagon for these type of things, right? When it comes to any new trending stuff, I'm like, I don't really care. I don't really care, but you know what? I just kind of felt like doing it. I wanted to talk about it, so I pulled the trigger. I download this app called Epic with a K. And Epic with a K has this 90s photo album feature. What it does is it scans your face on uploaded photos, and it composes a generative take on 90s, high school yearbook photos. Is it as bad as trending YouTube vids? No, trending YouTube vids, the ones where it says viral in hashtags, are definitely the opposite of trending. But take a look at what one of those photos may look like. Let me see if I could grab it for you. Boom. Wait. Sorry. That was it's from a previous show. Yeah, this on the left is Baguette Elise. I was entering my French phase in high school. And second is a blonde Elise. There was a time where I was blonde. And finally, most like Elise, which is most like me. You would not find me wearing French baguette clothing. I did have blonde hair once, but you would not catch me wearing a yellow dress. That's not my thing. But these 3 images and 57 more were generated by AI. I uploaded 8 pictures as per their request. And what I got was these photos. And it's kind of cool. And it's very cool. And it's actually a very good way to make money because you just sell an album for $5. Everyone, it trends, people buy into it, and you make tons of money with your generative AI. Now, I looked at the photos that other people have uploaded according to this trend, and a lot of them borrow very much the same poses. Obviously, different face and skin tones and all that, and hair is actually quite similar. Because a lot of these photos already have like a pseudo pre-existing template. The poses are the same, but the faces will be different. But it's trending. I mean, even Arnold Schwarzenegger put up some photos. You can always look for that. It doesn't really matter. But you kind of understand why, it's kind of popular, right? Obviously, no one has cared this much about their school photos in high school. If you did, you weren't rebelling, quite honestly. Here's one more picture, and then I just wanted to like bring this up. Yeah, it is really cool. All right. This is Blackpink Elise. You would never catch me wearing earrings the size of golf balls or a golden egg, a duck egg, but here they are. I also wouldn't wear that type of jewelry. It's not like I haven't. It's just I'm not exactly tomboyish, but I'm a little Tommy. Especially as I got older and I cared less about like all this stuff. But hey, it is really cool. Is that a corporate look? That's a carpet salesman look. That is a Blackpink Rose look because she would wear something like that. I wouldn't. But it is cool nevertheless because what appealed to me is that, first of all, I didn't have this type of money to afford this stuff when I was younger, right? Like these clothes. So it was pretty cool to kind of see how it would look like in all these outfits and as if I actually gave a damn. And that's the thing. This is kind of trending. You'll see it around, and people are fooled by these AI generated pictures until you start seeing a lot more people having them. You're like, why is everyone posing in the same way, wearing the same clothes? Says, God damn it. God damn it, Blackpink Rose. You reminded me of a pen I needed to buy. Not that I needed to, but I need to. Oh, God. Yesterday, I did go pen shopping with a friend, and we were looking at fountain pens. I took some pictures. There was nothing too fancy, but I think, I'll share that. Yes. So generative AI. Why does this matter? Well, that's kind of the topic for today because when we talk about Google's Pixel 8 editing memories, not photos. Because if you hadn't heard, the Google Pixel, right, one of these, except much newer. This is a Pixel 3. One of these phones, these Pixel phones have become more mainstream. On its initial launch, I was one of the early adopters. Even in the Pixel 3 days, there weren't many people who had a Pixel. I never met anyone else who had a Pixel phone, but I've always liked Google. And I picked up the phone. And here we are, 5 generations later. Pixel 8 just came out for pre-order. I ordered mine. And it comes with a very heavily touted feature, and that's AI editing. Utilizing AI, you can change how photos look just with a few taps. So take a look at this.
To use generative AI to reimagine your photos. Just tap or circle the object you want to edit, drag to reposition your subject, pinch to resize them, or use one-tap presets to make the background pop. It's an intuitive new way to edit so you are in control of your images, whether you want to better capture the moment or add your own creative touch. Magic Editor in Google Photos lets you use generative AI.
So, sorry, it just kept looping. You could see today's show is a little rough around the edges. But anyways, back to Google, right? So this is one of the many features that the new AI editing is capable of, right? There's actually 2 features that I want to talk about today. And the first is the Magic Editor, right? So if there is an object that you want added or moved, you could just highlight it. It has smart selection. It will cut out the appropriate shape for the object, and you'll be able to shift it. Now, if you have used, oh yeah, actually, let me bring that up. So actually, Rom says that the AI added part of the tent that was off screen. That's the generative part, including the background behind it, right? Behind the area that was moved. Now, if you have ever used selection tools in like Photoshop or something, you'll know that these selection tools are not perfect. Oftentimes, you'll have fringed edges around a simple object like a rectangle, right? You would select it, and when you move it, there's going to be still little pixels, no pun intended, left behind by the object that you moved. So I don't know how that is going to be rectified, and if they have the AI fully aware of these fringe pixels. But the fact of the matter is, this AI will allow you to change scenery, turning day to night, sunrise, sunsets, moving the sun, which could and probably should impact shadowing. So I don't know how deep they go into that. But moving people is going to be a thing. You have a best friend in your photo and you're wondering why your bestie is not standing next to you. Well, take that dude that's in the way and dump him off the cliff, and then you could shift your bestie over. It's actually a very simple user interface, right? The lasso tool is a pain in the ass, says Rom. Yeah, and exactly how you use the tool on the phone is going to be like a lasso tool. So that's one thing. The second is called Best Take. It's another feature that allows you to edit the photo after the fact. And Best Take basically allows you to select someone's face and change their expression. Now, this is also new to phones, but not new to other programs. Photoshop has recently, in the last quarter, added the ability for you to change a person's expression. You're able to change how they angle their face. Now, the effect is not as believable. Photoshop, although it is the premier, one of the highest tiers of photo editing, it still doesn't have all these features as tightly done as the Google Pixel at the moment. Let's see. So Ram says, now I don't have to smile in the photos. Yeah, and you won't, because when you with Best Take, this feature allows you to select a person's face, a boop, and then you can change that whatever face, the resting bitch face that you always have, because I know you fucking do. Sorry, cursing. I'm gonna try not to curse so much on the podcast. But like, yeah, you could turn that resting face into a smile, basically, whenever you want, at a touch of a button. So, Photoshop, right? It can do all this. And there are other editing softwares that allow you to do all this. But with Photoshop, you're gonna have to pay a hefty price. Photoshop is not cheap. It's several $100s. And in fact, to utilize this software, you still require quite a bit of skill. The current iteration, the beta versions of Photoshop does have more generative AI stuff. And I haven't fully tested it, but from what I've gathered so far to the areas that I have used, it's reasonable. You can find seams in the generative aspects of the photo. But the barrier to entry is still requiring users to pay a good amount of money and to practice photoshopping, to study photoshopping. Maybe it's not going to take you, years to master. Maybe it just take you a weekend, but it will take some time and some investment. And for those who are not tech savvy or those who care that much about it, well, they don't care. They don't care to learn all this stuff. They don't care to spend that money to edit their photos, right? In chat says, I love how we're getting closer to 1984. Yeah, and everything is edging towards that. Ram says, I bet you can also cut out photo bombers, which is probably one of the best features, right? You cut out those creepers in your photos. And trust me, you have creepers in your photos. You just didn't look. All right. You didn't look carefully enough. Look through your photos again. And you can actually take old photos and even photos from other platforms, Samsung photos, the Samsung Galaxy photos, the iPhone photos. You can actually port it to your Google Pixel and edit it that way. And Z says there's always a creeper. The game. Is that a game? Is that a game? It is October, Spooktober, so I might be interested in that. So, all right. So now that Photoshop, right, the financial barrier of Photoshop is rolled into your phone. The skill involved in learning Photoshop is rolled into a few taps because of a great user experience. Is this crossing a boundary? Z says you'll learn how to edit out creeps in photos and you're timed. Oh, you're thinking about developing a game where you have to edit out photos, edit people out of photos. In chat says out or in, because that can become problematic too, right? I think it's a philosophical question because I don't think there's one right answer. And I've been very curious. I've been asking some of my friends, I haven't gone to everyone, but I've been asking my friends how they feel about something like this, right? People argue like, oh, this existed before, but when you make something easy, when you give people access at this scale and this level, more people will do it, right? It just makes sense. This to me is like lowering the legal age of drinking, right? It's like what, 21 or 18? I actually don't know. Cuz I don't drink. I really don't drink. Anyways, point is, right? Like it's 21, right? 21? 18? I don't know. I think it depends. I actually don't know. But the point is, right? Like, so when you change that barrier to entry, right, is no longer a certain age, and you lower it to like 13, you lower it to 10, right? You're going to have more people accessing it, more people with the option to edit photos heavily. Ram says, now no one will ask their graphic designer friends to edit their photos. That's true, because you won't need that. That is another job, another industry knocked out thanks to AI. That's a whole nother story, but right? Is this crossing a boundary, right? Now, in some cases, you can argue this is fine, right? So imagine you're with your cousin at like a family picnic, right? You don't want to be there. She doesn't want to be there. You have things to do, maybe a new game release, a new tech release. You probably just want to sleep, but it's a very important family picnic, and multiple generations a gathering, and your younger cousin, she really doesn't want to be there. But you're an adult, right? And you're gonna keep, you're gonna be patient. You're just gonna treat everyone like cool, and you're gonna talk with them and at least pretend to be invested. But your cousin's not having it. So come the family photo, you know this is the end of the picnic, right? You take photos at the end. So you're like, all right, I just need a smile and I'll get through this. But she is fed up. She wasted her time because she could have been partying with Chad or whatever her boyfriend is, whatever his name is, right? And she missed it, and she's freaking pissed off. So she doesn't smile in the photo. Well, it's a family photo that's ruined by her not smiling, right? She's wearing her expression, her feelings on her sleeve. It's very apparent. So she's staring daggers in a camera, and you tap that photo and you make her smile. For the sake of the family, now you have a photo where the whole family's actually happy to be in each other's presence. How do you stand in this situation? Is this good, or is this not good? Is this authentic to the experience? How authentic? Or is it not authentic at all? Let's say Z says being with Chad would have been a better idea. Yeah, being with Chad would have been a better idea. I've been there before. I've been to family functions. I put on my best face. Me and my family, we're not, they don't know that they're not great people. That's all I have to say. So I still put on that happy face, but damn, I don't have to anymore with this, assuming they correct the faces. Ram says, Ram has a good idea. He says, you could have two versions of the photo. And that's true too. Because in the current iteration of Google and this whole magic editor, what they're doing is they're allowing people to utilize these features, but the photos will be flagged with something to indicate that generative AI has been used in the metadata, right? If you're not familiar with metadata, it's when you right click on the properties of an MP3 and it tells you, what's the bit rate, it tells you how long the track is, tells you the artist. All those details are saved into the file or baked into the file. Date of creation, date of modification, all this stuff is baked in. However, this can also be changed, right? Like anything can be spoofed or altered. If there's a will, there's someone who's done it. Says, ask me about editing metadata. Sure. What about metadata? Is there something, is it super easy to do? I mean, I've messed with metadata before, but I've never changed any hard-coded metadata. Is this AI thing going to be tied to online or will it work with no connection? This is actually a good question. This AI thing is going to be tied to online. Because ultimately, there are some features on the Pro version that is not accessible on the regular version. And I'm getting the regular version, so I don't really know the feature set, but for me personally, I don't want a big phone. And this current Pixel 3 that I have, this current Pixel 3 is actually 6.3 inches, right? In the screen size, in the size of phone, and it's already too big. The new Pixel Pro, Pixel 8 Pro is, they don't even call it Pixel 8 XL, they call it Pro now. I've kind of been out of the loop with it. It is 6.7, so it's much bigger. So I kept with the smaller one, and the smaller one does not have the same feature set. Personally, I already made my decision. I get what I get. Am I going to be using the AI editing? Sure. I'm going to play around with it. Am I going to edit all my photos? I don't know yet. Honestly, I don't know yet. I would edit to a certain degree, but after a while, when it is not me, right? And everyone's definition for themselves is different, right? What their principles are, where they stand on this. So at some point, I'm going to be like, that's too much editing. I would not be happy uploading this. Z says, what if you're trying to tell some story about what happened at the family picnic, but Barbara decided to make some sort of edit with the AI editing just for funsies, but only records. It's the only record that survives. Yeah. Fabricating data is going to be an issue. In fact, one of the biggest problems is that, your local news stations, right? Do you know how they get their news? They get it from people reporting it. They buy stories and then they report those stories. They do their best to fact check some of them, but they buy them and they report them, right? Like if a car accident happened and there's a big pileup, they don't have reporters there. They have people like tweeting about it. They scan for tweets and, they show up and do their stuff, right? So when you have people who have access to such a high degree of editing and an incredibly powerful capability to modify information, photos, potentially the truth, then how are news brands going to process this data? Let's see. Says, unless they implement a way to check some metadata, which would be a gross waste of computational power. There's no point flagging photos as AI edited. I don't think there's no point. I think it does serve a purpose because remember, the very people who will heavily use this feature, well, first of all, I think everyone would heavily use this feature, but a vast majority of people are not technically savvy enough to make the same edits on Photoshop, right? That's just completely, accurate. Not everyone knows or has the skill. I've used Photoshop for many years, and I haven't gotten into that level of like correction in my photos, right? It takes time. It really takes practice. But the people who are picking this up, they're most likely not going to be tech savvy enough to even edit the metadata. It's not like they can't. And I don't even think a lot of people know what metadata is. The general public who don't know what this stuff is, they're not going to know that is one way to prove it unless it gets talked about a lot. But also, editing the metadata it's like an extra step for people who are so used to tap, tap, edit, send. Are they really willing to send that into, I don't know if there's an app to edit the metadata, or there probably is, or send it to a PC to manually edit it and send it back and just do all these loopholes for something people most likely won't check. Let's see. Okay, Frederick says, you mean the thing we do with every file in a server system? I don't know what you guys are talking about. That is beyond me. But ultimately, it is a safety precaution, and it's better to have some safety than zero safety. But this is where Google dances the line between what is okay and what is not okay. So knowing all this, knowing how easy it is, and if spending $800 or $1,200 is easy, right? Because Photoshop's a few hundred already, knowing how easy this is, how do you feel about editing photos? Do you feel it crosses a personal boundary for you? Would you do it? In what cases would you do it? And where is it going too far? I think for me, I've been thinking about for a few days. And I know that I am not entirely happy with this development. I am willing to make modifications to photos for Instagram because at this point, Instagram is a fairyland, right? It's all fantasy. It's almost all fantasy. Something is, edited, touched upon, saturation turned up, brightness turned up. Like there's certain degrees to, I guess, the truth, right? That's what it is. Because you're having these photos, they're supposed to serve as memories, but the more you change that and alter that reality, the more you're straying from the truth. So I think that in the future, everyone is going to be utilizing this software. Of course, there are people who are like, nope, I'm never going to do it. And that's fine. And I believe they will never do it. But for a vast majority of people who don't really care, don't have the same values and principles on preserving truth and honesty in their photography. And in a way, people kind of like me because I'm like, it's it's kind of a photo. I don't think it matters that much depending on what it's for, right? If it's for remembering a moment together with friends, then I would have an original and I would have the faked one, right? The edited one. But I wouldn't go to put the sun in the right place. I would brighten up the image. Things I would do is change the expression. Yes, I would do that. I would edit out people, right? I generally only take photos with people who I like. Sometimes there are people who I do not like. So I would remove that. Frederick says, have you ever worn makeup? Yeah, see, that's, I would say makeup is in terms of, is kind of like one, makeup does distort reality a little bit. Um, that's, but that's like socially acceptable, right? Can you add people that aren't there? I think you can merge photos. I don't think you could generate like, oh, generate my best friend. And then, there she is. Like she's just standing there. Actually, Google can do that because Google could recognize people. They have face recognition in their photo organizing cloud-based software, right? So you could be like, oh, put Becky on the photo. I was gonna say on the phone. Yeah. Like, so you might be able to do that in the future. But yeah, going back to what Frederick said, Frederick said, where is it? Okay, have you worn makeup? I think that's where this is an iteration on makeup. But it's a very big iteration on makeup because makeup is enhancing how a person looks to look better. Editing the sun to be brighter or dimmer or at a different angle is actually changing memory, right? Changing someone's expression is actually changing a memory. So it is kind of a close, it kind of runs very close, but I think there is a difference in that. And if I'm wrong, feel free to speak up because I think that's what, that's what I'm curious about, how you guys feel about it. Ron says you could do some morally dubious stuff already. And Ron says, is it going too far when you cut out your family members from a printed photograph? I don't know. For me, I would do it. I would cut out like regardless of I think for me it depends on the type of memory. I think that's going to be key, right? Because if I want to remember the people who loves me, right? And I have a photo with like a rotten uncle or something, and I cut him out, that memory carries on something positive, right? Only the positive. It does leave out some of the negative. And I think when people are given the choice to only remember the good times and the bad times, or versus memorizing the bad times as well, I think they're going to choose the former. Is that at the cost of a memory? For me, I don't mind. If there's someone I don't like, I don't mind deleting them out of my memory as if I never met them. Has it made me a better person meeting them? Yeah, usually, right? Even the bad people in your life usually make you better because there's something to learn from, right? There's something to learn about the way they do things or how you respond to them, right? But for me, that's the best of both worlds. I get the life lessons that this person has brought into my life, but I don't have to remember them or credit them. Even better, I don't have to credit these people who have made my life worse before it got better. But that's lying to myself, but I'm okay with it. And that's what I'm talking about, how it could be like a very personal thing. There's going to be two ways to look at this from a societal standpoint, how we're all going to feel towards these photos, right? Are we going to start questioning every single photo? Is this fake? Which AI did you use? You know, how many edits did you make, right? Like which tools? It's going to be a Samsung. It's going to be a Pixel, right? And then there's going to be the people who are like, don't really care. It doesn't matter, right? But then it's how you feel, right? So at the end of the day, how everyone feels is one thing. How you feel about it, your personal journey with this is another. Ram says, when you take a picture of the moon on Samsung phones, the AI will overlay a detailed moon picture over it. Yeah, that's the difference is they didn't ask for your permission. They did that on their own to enhance and sell more phones as if they have a super high detailed camera. This is better in the sense that you have to be clear that you want to make adjustments to it, but at the same time it does allow people to do crazier things. You could say the same things about say the same thing about camera stabilization, right? Well, I mean, how do you take pictures before camera stabilization? Do you have a gimbal? Because everyone shakes, right? That's a problem, right? So if you want the full, super honest truth, then you don't want image stabilization. But also, if you want the super honest truth, then what the camera sees is, I mean, this is reaching, right? But what the camera sees is different from how your eyes perceive color. Everyone perceives color differently. The cameras generally are tuned across the board to have the same color processing, at least within the same brand. Obviously, there's deviations, right? Like every time you buy a monitor, the colors might be a little different, might be a little darker. You know, you buy multiple of the same monitors, factory settings might be a little off, you know, like, and it's, in a way, it's reaching, but it is actually true, though, because you're not exactly preserving it. And I guess that's the thing. So I don't know. If you have anything to add to this, right? Like, if you really feel this is a problem, I would love to hear it. If you're undecided, and it's okay to be undecided, because sometimes you need to see the damage or the good that people do with this technology. And only then can we really know the full impact of what this tech can do. So, Google Pixel, right? People are making reviews. We're going to start seeing a lot of adjusted, altered photos. But more companies are going to follow suit, right? Android phones are going to get it. iPhones are going to get it. Ron says people will do shady stuff with it for sure. Yeah. And as more people get hands on this technology, there'll be good uses and bad uses. The only thing is the good uses are mainly to make something look better. The bad uses could be used to deceive people for other reasons, right? So in this case, the good versus bad, I think there's more bad than good. Just like our second topic. Our next topic is Twitter. Twitter's in a paradox of tolerance. So X and Twitter users are leaving the platform, and they have been leaving for months. And one of them is because of the hateful content on the platform. No. See, Rom says, like, wow, you're homeless now, right? Because, oh, I'm in an alley. It's not that. It's because we're talking about trash, and therefore we might as well be in the alley. Yeah, I've thought about this. All right, so Twitter is in a paradox, and I don't want to misquote this. So I will read exactly as it is written. So the situation with Twitter, right? It's basically this, right? So this story is to go with an old Nazi bar analogy. You open a new dive bar, and in the opening crowd comes a few Nazis. They're comfortable making their views known and using the bar as a platform to recruit others. The tolerant thing to do is to give them much right to their views as any other. The right thing to do is also to remove them from the bar. So long as they remain, they will recruit compatriots, push out regular patrons, and before long, you have what is called a Nazi bar, right? So in this scenario, we're talking about the hateful content on Twitter and how trying to not exclude people and have it create an open platform, you end up allowing everyone to have a say in things. And this is where it gets really philosophical, right? Because if you want to stand up against hate speech, you have to cut some people out. You have to silence some people. So the challenge is, here's where the intolerance happens. So assume the same thing happens, except this time you don't own the bar. The bartender isn't keen on kicking out paying customers. In this case, you only have words. You attempt to organize a protest to shout the Nazis out of the bar, but in turn, they do the same. You get into a shouting match, you shout back and forth. They bring Nazis from all over the country to engage in a war of words. What you have now is an even bigger Nazi bar. This was said in a Twitter post. I'm going to post a link for you guys here so you could check this out. I think it's a very interesting read. It's in chat. If you are not watching live, I will put it in the description. But basically what this is saying is that it's like the idiom, there is no such thing as bad publicity. Because every time you point out something that is something you don't agree with, you're also promoting it, indirectly promoting it. Like, oh, I don't agree with how Twitter has so much hateful content. Well, people who are interested in hateful content will gravitate towards the hateful content platform, right? So that's kind of what this whole analogy is talking about. When you reiterate something, you allow it to proliferate. And in fact, for me to even talk about this, I am reinforcing the fact that Twitter is a place for hateful content. Now, for me, it has been a different experience on Twitter. I have actually not seen any abnormally hateful content. There's general internet arguments. Yeah, all the time. Not a problem. I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen racist stuff. I haven't seen homophobic stuff. I haven't seen anything like that. And maybe I'm lucky. And maybe I also spend almost zero time on Twitter. But if you have like been on the platform and you encountered this stuff, then it might be one reason why you might be looking for a new platform. And a lot of people are, remember we talked about Threads when Threads came out? A lot of people are going to Threads because it is marketed as a direct competitor to Twitter. But here's the problem with my time on Threads. I love Threads. I use it quite often, actually, and I find it a lot more engaging. The algorithm isn't great. I do get junk news. But for the most part, it's fine. Ram says, where did my chat go? Here we go. Okay, Ram says, does Threads have celebrities yet? Because if not, and it's true, right? If celebrities are not on Threads, that's like kind of a big demographic you want to collect on your platform. I haven't seen many celebrities. I have seen people come in from Twitter and flaunt that, oh, I used to be, 800,000 followers on Twitter, and here I am because I'm making a stand. And I'm like, if you're making a stand, just make a fucking stand, right? Obviously they want their 800,000 followers back, sure, and they're trying to tell people I am worth following by saying I had 800,000. So I get that. But that's the type of post that I see all the time on Threads. Yeah, you get like, I engage in a lot of tech posts. I get engaged in a lot of art posts, some raccoon posts because, I love raccoons. But I would say maybe 20% of all my content is people talking about Twitter on Threads. Just like the analogy, they're bringing up the fact that this platform is so bad that they're switching to Threads. And to go full circle on what Ram said, does Threads have celebrities? Threads does not have as many official channels as Twitter. And for a good reason, because Twitter has been around for 15 years-ish? And Threads is few months. I mean, Threads does not have the install base Twitter has. Doesn't have the install base Instagram has. Actually, Instagram is huge. And Facebook even bigger. Facebook is the largest install base in all social platforms because it's basically the first one. Rom Hook says, there's room for more than one Twitter-esque social media. Yeah, perhaps. I think so, but can we actually get everyone on the same platform? And I don't think so. Because as long as you have official channels that post on Twitter and not on Threads, there will be people who still stay on Twitter for their own reasons. And people don't go to Twitter for hateful content. Most people don't. Some people do. Some people go there to flex and flaunt and argue and pick fights and, some people like to sit back and watch Netflix. These people just like to argue on the internet. Twitter is one of the first places. It's one of, like, if you were doing an internet argument speed run, Twitter is the place you go to, right? Twitter, Reddit, 4chan. But in the reverse order, because it's actually 4chan, Reddit, Twitter. That's how fast you could get an argument. You could say one thing, boom. Someone would be like, oh, you're ugly, like your mom. It's just natural. These are the type of people these platforms attract. But they also attract people who are there for the news. For example, this past weekend, New York City was said to have a flood warning. And someone on Threads had posted this. Now, I don't open Twitter. I actually don't. X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. I went back to calling it Twitter because I can't say X. It always doesn't make sense when you say, oh, on X the other day. Anyways. I had to go on Threads to find out local flooding news, right? And they specifically said, I am reposting this here on Threads because all the official channels are still on Twitter. So New York City sources, other sources, fire stations, public services, anything like that, it needs to be equally distributed. Let's see. Mom says one could be heavily moderated, another could be overly tolerant, and people would have an option. I think that is kind of how it's used right now. But the moderation, like, honestly, Threads is moderated better. Instagram is moderated better. The type of naughty content that you could find on Twitter, it's pretty wild, right? But the type of content that you see on Instagram, I don't know about Facebook. I haven't used it since its initial launch. You just don't you don't see that type of content, right? Like pornographic, actually. Twitter has introduced or allowed pornographic content to exist on the platform. And it's so easy to stumble upon it. For me, though, really, my timeline has been very good. I've not stumbled upon pornographic content. The only thing I get is like rave debauchery, right? People who are dressed way too little, dancing way too hard. But, that's the community I subscribe to, hence the outfit today. Rom says important news should be posted everywhere, and it should be. It should be. There's no reason. There are apps that allow you to post to multiple platforms at once. In fact, there should be okay, here's an idea, right? If you want to do a tech startup, make an easy to use automated reposting system targeted towards government facilities only, exclusively. Get a contract with the United States government and to serve all important functions in every city and every state. Have like a program designed specifically for firefighting, hit every firehouse across the nation. Police station, have an app for the police station. Contract your services specifically to government parties. Do not sell yourself to a government party, but have that service available to them. And actually have a second service that also does it, because you don't want a monopoly on government messaging, right? So if you have something like that, it could help people adopt to all these new social platforms, because at the end of the day, the only companies that have social media managers are big companies and tech companies. Like, I mean, Wendy's has a social media manager, and I guess it's big enough, but you know, your fire stations are just like whoever's like the chief of the firehouse is like, oh, let me check Twitter, and they're like, hey, there's a fire. Like, you know, like imagine he's like trying to get to the fire, and he's like tweeting and then threading and then like Facebooking. Like, you just don't have time for that shit. Oh, Frederick, I saw that link. Instagram algorithm boosted a network. Stumbled upon? What is stumbled upon? Says stumbled upon. I remember this. What is this? I remember the name. I just don't recall. Is it like a random website, like returner thing? Is it like Google's I'm lucky feature? I could imagine it sounds like something like that. So the problem with Twitter is that more disgusting content, or less publicly acceptable content is flooding the platform, and Elon Musk has not really done much to address it. You know, he keeps pushing the platform as you know, like a angle of free speech. Everyone's welcome here. And the more toxic people that get on the platform, or the more the platform is misused, the more people are subjected to this stuff. But until we pull big information, news information, cultural information, and productive discussions off of Twitter and put it onto our platforms, we're going to have to kind of deal with Twitter in the meantime. So all these people who are moving to Threads, I personally, I don't actually want Threads to have more people. I like it where it's like there's less trash content, because the more time that passes on Threads, the more trash content that comes over, right? Just because you leave Twitter doesn't mean you're a good person, okay? You might be leaving Twitter because you're thinking, oh, I'm just going to start a new audience here, you know? And over time, I've seen more and more trashy content. So please, maybe I should make my own social platform. That seems to be what everyone's doing nowadays. If you've heard of Blue Sky and stuff. Ram says taking selfies. Speaking of selfies, I'm seeing a lot more selfies on Threads. When it first launched, I was not seeing selfies. But now I gotta kind of deal with it. Well, yeah. So if you are active on either platform, why not go for it? The more options there are. What, to post your selfies everywhere? Remember, we could understand how the algorithm recommends content to us. I need some functionality to disable certain types of content, right? So if I want to disable seeing selfies on the Twitter platform or the Threads platform, then I need to be able to put that in the AI algorithm, like the search, so they could filter out that content. Instagram is for selfies. Instagram is used a lot for selfies, yes. But people post their pictures because they think they're super hot. Like, I don't know, like some people just fucking do that. I mean, you won't catch me doing that shit ever. Ever, 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 ever. Because you know why? I've got integrity. Anyways, thank you guys for checking out today's show. This is episode 13 of Technical with Sharlit Elise. It is a shorter show, but we have some really interesting topics. If there's anything that has been said or not said, fuck. Fucking Z says, what? Integrity? I got plenty of it. Baguette Charlotte should be my alter ego. Maybe. It is Spooktober, so I will be in costume for more of the streams. Yeah, so today we talked about the Google Pixel 8, which I will have in my hands in about a week. Or the end of this week, actually, because it's Sunday, right? The Pixel 8 introduces new AI magic editing technology that changes faces and puts generative photo editing at your fingertips. Literally. No, actually not literally. Pseudo-literally. Giving users a streamlined process to just make shit up. And we talked about Twitter, X, Zitter, whatever you want to call it, having this philosophical issue where people want to leave the platform but can't leave the platform, and people who like to hate on other people get attracted to the platform, right? You are part masochist and part sadist. Is it Zitter? It's Zitter. That's the official name. Anyways, yeah, so if you want to proliferate toxic culture, stay on the Twitter platform, because every ad you watch is more money for the platform to help proliferate that culture. If you want to proliferate that culture, also talk about Zitter on a podcast like me. I do not want to promote that stuff, but you know, that's the paradox. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be rolling into a gaming stream, but if you want to check out this at a later time, or you want to check out our other episodes, and with each episode we're getting better, so you might want to remember where I started and how rough or very strict my format was. You could check out the links in chat here or in the description below if you are not live. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys on the next podcast Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.